So first of all, welcome to everyone to the meeting. And I'd like to say, as it's Chris's final meeting, I'd like to thank him very much on behalf of us all for all your commitment and hard work over the years as town clerk, and particularly for his support of all of us new councillors and myself. So thank you very much for all that you've done.
You're very welcome. Thank you, Chair. For obvious reasons, Janet also asked me to lead the next item. We have no chaplain tonight, but I'd like councillors, if they could, to be silent for a moment to remember Councillor David King, who was our Deputy Mayor, who died, what, 6 weeks ago, 8 weeks ago now. How time flies, doesn't it? But if we could just remain silent for a moment, just to remember David and his contribution, I'd be grateful. Thank you, councillors. Chair, over to you.
Thank you for that. So now I'd like to welcome Sergeant Scott Adams for his police report, please.
Evening, everybody. What I'll do is I'll give you a rundown of what we have, and then if you have any questions, I'll answer that at the end, if that's all right. So it's probably not surprising, but crime in Workington has gone up, and that's mainly sat around assaults with licensed premises. That'll be Steve Waddell. Just a second. Where's that gone? I don't know where that's gone. Yeah, that's my inspector, so he obviously can't get in. Sorry about that. Yeah, crime's gone up mainly around about assaults to do with licensed premises reopening, and criminal damage, which we've seen quite a spike in criminal damage and graffiti. This is mainly sitting in and around the St Michael's ward, which has been a bit of a problem for us since I started in this role back in March. So in the last period, you'll have obviously been aware of the closure orders that we took out on John Street and Headlands Close. We followed those up with 2 more closures on Clare Street and Milburn Street. The Milburn Street one we've extended because the landlord wasn't working with us, so we have refused to let the tenants back into the address, and that's the same with John Street. So what we're doing at the minute is we're trying to work with Allerdale Borough Council and private and social landlords with a view of coming up with a good landlord policy that they will sign up to, with a view of them coming on board and supporting us a lot more, so we don't have to take out as many closure orders. Because if you look at Cumbria as a whole, Cumbria's only had 5 closure orders and 4 of them have been taken in Workington, and we've taken them in the last sort of 4 months. So it shows you that it's a good tool, underused, but a tool that I think we don't have to use as often as we do. So we're trying to do some work in the wider picture on that one. So we have began work around Harcourt Street and Bromley Court, and they are around ASB and nuisance, and also Bolton Street for fly tipping. So we're doing a lot of work in the Allerdale hub around the fly tipping and trying to deal with those. Harcourt Street is looking like we're going to take out more closure orders. Bromley Court is ASB of children that we're just starting to work on through our new child centre policing team. So just starting to look into them. The Cumberland Hotel has been a bit of a bugbear since lockdown started. In this last period, we've reduced the number of occupancies from 32 to 17, and a lot of our more problematic individuals have been moved to different locations, some to Copeland, some further into Allerdale, Cockermouth and various other areas. So we've reduced the impact of that one location on our crime rates. The Cumberland staff have also taken out CCTV and employ an SIA doorman now, Thursday to Sunday nights, to help with the impact of the people that they had in that premises. One other problem area is Moor Close. During the month of July, we've seen quite a large spike in ASB. Within that ASB, there was 5 crimes of hate-related incidents, all to do with a Syrian refugee family who lived on Newlands Gardens. We've done quite a lot of work developing security. We've just started working in the schools to build education. We've identified 3 young lads that were involved in most of those incidents, so they are now going through the youth offending service, hopefully to change their behaviour and develop further links. So the Syrian families have moved back, or one of them has moved back, the other one's moved to down to Manchester to be closer to family and support networks. So the only other thing that I really want to update and touch on is we've now got a collision reduction officer for West Cumbria, and that role is about, well, as it says really, reducing collisions and improving the road safety. So what we're looking at doing is following the suit that was set in Carlisle in the last couple of years and increasing the number of community speed watches we've got and any volunteers that might be worth taking part in that. What we found, because I set all this up in Carlisle, is that if we have an effective community speed watch, the complaints of speed drops dramatically very, very quickly. And on top of that, complaint dropping, the perception and the fear of speed and what it can potentially do in vehicles also drops. So all ends up, it becomes a very, very important tool for us as the police, identifying the times, the days, the locations that cause problems, for us to task officers to prosecute the right people doing the wrong things. That makes sense. So that's one thing that I'm going to try and push forward. A lot of the councillors at Carlisle were part of those speed watches to show a bit of a leadership in their areas. And I obviously open that to the floor. Would that be something that you guys would be interested in here? I'm going to take the silence as a no.
Sorry, sorry, I'm sure everybody would. Sorry, Beth, would you like to speak?
Yeah, the speed is actually something in my ward, especially down the Siddick Road towards the Mary Park Road towards Asda.
Yes.
There has been accidents, and actually it is, you know, it is. We can go down a safe route to school for children going to school, having to walk along there. So it is an area, and actually we've got a one-way system, and sometimes we have quite an issue with speeding around here. So it's definitely something we will pick up on.
Right. Like I said, we went in Carlisle, because I said that's where I've come from. I spent the last 2 years doing this role in Carlisle. We went from 1 community speed watch in Brampton to 17 in and around the city and another 9 at Penrith. And from that, what we found was, some of you will be part of Crash and probably have attended Crash meetings. We went from 78 complaints on Crash to 6 because every other complaint was about speed. And what we found was, if we got a community involved, one, they started educating the colleagues. We started speaking to children in schools. They educate parents. And then what goes on from there is, if there is a real issue, community speed watch has identified it, which then means when I send in officers, speed vans and other things, I can get that backing and resource through my bosses, because I have a quantitative assessment because of the community speed watch. So it feeds the intelligence model and machine, if you like. So it is something I'm quite interested in getting off the ground, and now we have this dedicated officer, which is Leanne Pettit. I'm quite happy that we should be able to do that.
Okay.
You've got Will and then Denise, Janet.
And then Herbert.
Will?
Yeah, just unmute me, mic, Chris. Yeah, thanks for that. Yeah, I fully understand what's been going on. I've actually reported one of your lockdown houses myself that's been broken into, but what I'm a bit dismayed about is that when it's reported to on the 101 service, I'm receiving an email asking me who's the social landlord. Now that's a bit disappointing when you consider that was the police who applied for it, and the residents are pulling their hair out, reporting these things via the 101 email service. To be hit with a question like that. Now, this has been reported. I work very closely with Lisa, who you know is Lisa Jackson, and I pass intel on through Lisa. It's still the same places, the same houses, and the one thing that I do see is that you spend a lot of time in the Cumberland Arms Hotel, and so does a lot of the ambulance service. Can you give me any figures on how many times you've actually visited the Cumberland Arms in the last month, please? Because I think this is an absolute colossal cost on the resources of what you have, because it's just continuing. It doesn't stop. You've maybe moved them out, but it doesn't stop. Yesterday there was 2 police vans there again with an ambulance. You know, so 17 are still causing trouble, regardless of how many you've moved out. You know, and this is alarming.
I'm not going to say that the 17 that are in there don't live chaotic lifestyles, because some of them do. And we attend generally to help the ambulance service in those situations. I can't give you the exact figures. I would have to go away and look at that. But what I do know is that because the Cumberland Arms, or hotel as it were, is a hub referral, it becomes a partner issue. So people like the police, Unity, other partners along that line are in there. Not, I wouldn't say daily, but definitely every couple to 3 days we're in there having a check of who's in, what issues they've got, and trying to support them, as in the owners of the place and the local community, to keep tabs on where we are and who's doing what things. Yes, I agree. It is a drain on resource. I completely agree with that. But to come back to your other point about the attendance at Clay Street, I'm taking it was Clay Street.
It was, yeah.
It's owned by Derwent Solway, or Castles and Coasts as it is now. We already know that as the community MPT team, but the 101 system links to headquarters. Those officers won't have that knowledge. So when that does come to us, we can progress it. I get your frustration with the 101 system. Believe me, I have the same frustrations.
I sat there on the 101 system the other day trying to report something. 48 minutes, still didn't get answered. To me, the 101 system is an absolute not a joke. It is not a joke.
I completely agree with you.
And it's got to the point now where maybe your crime figures are coming down, but the reason for your crime figures coming down is because people are trying to report them and finding there is no answer, right, to report them. So that's then manipulating the figures as far as
I think at the start of this sentence, sorry, he's broke up there. You're back, Will. You broke up in the middle of that.
Sorry, I'll just reiterate. Your 101 system, which I call a complete and utter joke.
Yeah.
You know, 48 minutes, I sat there, still waiting for a telephone call being answered, didn't get answered. And crime figures are increasing. But what I'm saying to you is, your crime figures are not being recorded as increasing as much as what they are, because people are not reporting crimes, because the 101 system is an utter joke and a give up reporting a crime. Now, myself this month, I have actually had to apprehend someone who's known to the police, who are caught breaking into cars on my own street, and I had to do a foot chase down the pavement and do a citizen's arrest on him. I had a struggle. I fully understand that he's busy. I had to keep someone in a headlock under a citizen's arrest for 15 minutes. And I walked up with the cuffs out and called him by his first name. These are just habitual criminals. And people are losing patience. And in St Michael's Ward, they are really, really losing their patience. I'll tell you now.
Yeah, and I agree with what you're saying, but such things as closure orders and stuff does take time to get. Like I said before, we've had 4, but that took 6 months of work up to now. Well, it took 3 months of work to get them, and then once we've got them, it's obviously then evidence and the reason for extensions when we've needed them and other bits like that. So, believe me, I get your frustrations. The work that we're trying to do is working on community protection warnings and orders. So when we get an initial instance, we're referring into community protection warnings. They are letters of warning alongside the acceptable behaviour contracts that we used to use, but there's a set process to them. So once we've issued that warning, we're using them for things like irresponsible dog ownership or nuisance neighbours and all that sort of stuff. And then we go into a community notice, which brings social landlords, Allerdale, ourselves, a few others, to go in and do a thorough meeting with that person. And the last stage to that is they end up in court, in civil courts, where action can be taken. That is actually a hell of a lot quicker and takes a lot less evidence than the criminal courts would do. And it also evidences us towards injunctions, closure orders. Now, I've been working this way for 2 years in Carlisle. I'm only just bringing it into the West Cumbria. So yes, there's teething issues. Yes, there's things that are going wrong that could be done better. But believe me, I'm trying to bring these different skills into this area. I'm a local lad. I was born and bred in Maryport. So as far as I'm concerned, I grew up in these areas. I know exactly who you're talking about, and I know exactly why you're talking about them. I've been on the force for 18 years, and I hate these individuals, but I can't eradicate them. We have to do things that we have to do education, development of them, work with them to better their lifestyles. And that's all the other welfare side that we have to go through, regardless of the fact that they're still out there breaking into cars and doing stuff wrong, because this is the modern day society and we need to do that. We need to support people because some people will change.
I fully appreciate what you're saying, and I applaud what you're doing. Can I just ask for one thing? Can you work a bit more closer with every councillor, whether he's present, they are present here tonight or not? You know, I find my easiest way around doing things now is to get in touch with the resident CPSO. But unfortunately, Lisa has a lot of ground to cover.
She does.
And a hell of a lot of ground to cover. And she can't be in more than one place at a time. And when we do have our catch-ups, you know, we spill the beans on things and let them know, you know, let each other know within reason. You know, I don't want to put it in any trouble for divulging any information, because she doesn't. But I'm the one who's divulging the information who, obviously, because it comes to you through Lisa, it carries a lot more weight. Because when I first got elected as a councillor, what I was basically told that I have asked residents to come direct to me for me to make the complaint because they want to remain anonymous. To be told that because it's coming third hand, it actually dilutes the force of the information, which I think is wrong. I think that's wrong. People want, you know, they want to remain anonymous because of fear of repercussions. Now, I'll be honest, I'm not bothered about repercussions. The guy who I done a citizen's arrest on, right? He threatened to come back and kill me.
Councillor,
I don't
really
mind.
sorry. Can we sort of shorten this a little and go on to? Have you more or less finished?
Yeah, thank you, Janet. Can I just ask for more communication with every councillor that's been elected? Thank you.
Thank you very much. Councillor Rollo, I think you were next.
Yeah, thank you, Madam Mayor. It was just obviously the question about the speeding issue. Yes, I'd be absolutely, it'd be fantastic if we could be involved in Salterbeck. We've got a road, Walker Road and Monkhouse Road, which is used as a rat run. Obviously, the rest of the roads are all speed bumped. So we are used as a rat run, and we've still got a lamp post that was knocked down by a speeding motorist. So that's still down. So yeah, and I'd like to obviously agree with Will about the 101 issue. I used it the other morning, 5:30 in the morning, couldn't get through. You'd have thought that time of the morning it'd be a lot easier, but it was still, in the end, I just went round and dealt with it myself, which is, we really shouldn't be doing that.
No, I agree with you. You are right. And the only suggestion I have is, yes, the 101 email system isn't perfect either, but at least you will get an answer on that 101 email system probably quicker than 48 minutes, if I'm honest. Yeah, it's been fed back repeatedly to Miss Skier that the system doesn't work, and they are looking at other ways of working, but I don't know what those are going to be. We're still waiting for that vision to be fed. But yeah, certainly the Community Speed Watch, I'll pass your details to Leanne and ask her to get in touch with you.
Brilliant, thank you, because we've got quite a few residents that are really quite worried about this, so that'd be great.
I will pass that on, thank you.
You've got Linda and then Billy, Janet.
Yeah.
Linda?
Yeah, I'm here. What it is, the 101, I've emailed them every day for the past 2 weeks about teenagers carrying on the park. They've done criminal damage. The last...
Linda, where's this at?
On Crummock Road in Mill Close.
Crummock Road, right. I am aware of this one then.
Yeah. They've done criminal damage and nobody's been up at all to see about it. Last night, I phoned 999 while the fire brigade was attending a fire, that the kids had gone and, like, set fire to somebody's garden, an empty property. And while I was on the phone to 999, they says, well, what do you want us to do? If they'd come out, if they'd sent somebody, they could have catched them. But they didn't send nobody out. So I passed it on to the lady that was there that reported it, that told me about it. She'd videoed the kids as she walked round and they all took off. And they told her that the video, there was nothing they could do with the video. They weren't interested at all.
Right.
And we've got a vulnerable home on this road.
Linda, I wasn't aware of that at all.
Yeah.
So
do you know what this happened at 8:30? The police actually come round at 11 o'clock.
Right.
And they were
don't know
looking.
what was going on. So I can't comment on where the cops were. What I can say is that if there's a video and if there's information, I need that and I can action that from my position.
Right.
So Chris has got my email and contacts. If you can get them off him and send me all the information, I will get that looked into.
Every night now, Phil.
I have identified Crummock Road because of your information coming through that is somewhere we need to be. So we've identified at least two, no, get this right, yeah, 2 17, 18-year-old lads who we believe are involved in drug supply, and a group of kids that are coming off them that's in that area. So that's what we're targeting. So I've got PCSOs and proactive teams. The proactive team I've been tasked to do it. I haven't seen any of them around. You might not see them. I was just about to say.
Yeah.
So Pete Nichols, the PCSO for that area, he will be out on foot when he's on duty, but he has been on rest days this last couple. The proactive team have been asked to come out in plain clothes and target that because they'll never get close enough if they're in full uniform.
People are intimidated.
Lisa Edwards to start looking at longer term solutions, which would be things like injunctions. It would be things like the community protection warnings I was talking about earlier, which says that person's not allowed to be with that person because that's where the association's causing problems. And we'll look at things like child and adolescent warning notices, which is we refer to as a CORN. So if that is an adult and there is a child involved, we get a statement from their parent or somebody that they're involved with to break that association. So it becomes an offence for that 18-year-old to associate with that child. So we'll look at all those sort of preventative measures to break that group. That's what we're right at the start of that at the moment.
Right. And have you been in touch with the Hollydykes home?
I believe the Hollydykes, yes, because that is where they believed that they were using canisters on the wall, was it? And dropping them in and around that area.
They were in the bushes. They keep going in the bushes. But last night I found out they were going through the dog compound. We call it a dog compound. They're going through the bushes. They broke a fence off a house on Grasmere Avenue that's just behind the bushes.
Yeah.
And they've been going in this empty house. And that's where they've all been going to. I've been trying to get in touch with Castle and Coast today, and I've had no joy out of them.
Right. Okay. So that's the empty house.
Yep.
I'll
180,
speak to
I think,
Ellen. I will speak to Ellen Graham in the morning, and I'll try and look at sorting that out for you. I can't guarantee I will, but at least if she's aware of it, she'll take action.
Yeah, I just want to know that something's going to happen up here soon.
Obviously, I've told you all the actions and options that we're trying to take as a tactic, but we are right at the start of that. So what I need to do is prove there's an association between the child and the adult, and that association is causing the criminality or antisocial behaviour. Then I can take out the corn, because it is a legal order.
Yeah,
Once I've got
you
that
can't always
breakdown in
blame
association.
an 18-year-old as well, because kids, they're like 13 to 15 to 18. They've all got a mind of their own. They all know what they're doing.
I completely agree with what you're saying, but the kids that we've identified, they are on a level where they would quite happily exploit children of 15,
Right.
and they'll do it through violence, or they'll do it through debt, which is why we try and break that association by the use of corns and making that association an offence. And we'll bring in our child-centred policing team to try and help with that, because they'll do a lot of work in the schools and with the parents to try and educate and move things forward.
What I'm bothered about is there's a lot of young girls knocking about with the boys.
And there is my point. That sexual exploitation doesn't just have to be physical and money and financial. It can be the girls and the sexual side. So we try and break that before it gets any worse. So that is started. I only started it on Monday, but it is started.
Okay. Can we have Councillor Miskelly followed by Councillor Briggs, Herbert Briggs, please?
Thank you very much, Madam Mayor. Sergeant Adams, in the first instance, I'd like to pass on the thanks of my constituents who live in my area, Bromley Court, Place, etc., for the extreme interest and help the police have been given. They've gone above and beyond since June. PCSO 5214 Peter Crome, who has really helped. He's calmed a lot of nerves. I realise what a hard job you're doing, and I realise the officers' calibre round here that are doing it, and I and my constituents very much appreciate it. As for 101, I've been lucky because I use the 101 email system, and I've had very quick replies, even if it's just saying someone will contact you in the morning. But I don't use the telephone because, like you've admitted, it's not fit for purpose really, and I like a paper trail. Anyhow, Sergeant, the third and final thing I'd like to mention, because there's other councillors wishes to speak to, is about the speeding. I'd like to point out that residents in my area are particularly concerned about Senhouse Street, leading Solway Road up to Oxford Street, Station Road. It's a rat run, and it's the same on Queen Street. It's really dangerous. People using them for shortcuts, etc. And that's all I've got to say. I said thanks very much for the help you're giving us all.
Thank you.
Councillor Briggs.
Yeah, thank you, Madam Mayor. Scott, Just going back to the speeding course thought sort of thing, it's something I would be interested in. Obviously, I live on the 597, which comes down from Lily Hall into Salterbeck into town. Even during the road closures, we were getting motorists coming down here doing 30, 40, 50 mile an hour. I actually reported it to 101. I was told there wasn't much they could do because the roadworks said that the road was closed, which was a bit sort of annoying. And then he recognised my number and asked who I was. And when I said I was a councillor, he said, we'll get a patrol up right away, which I found very amusing and annoying in the same time. But yes, the course...
very annoying, if I'm honest, because that shows a lack of respect for the members of the public, and I don't like
certainly
that.
Does. Yeah, it certainly does. He recognised my number because I'd phoned quite a few times, obviously with the travellers. I was phoning, and he'd seen that I'd phoned quite a few times. But yeah, going back to the speeding, definitely something that I'll be interested in.
As again, I'll pass your details to Leanne, and hopefully, if there's a bit more, I think we need a minimum. Generally, we need a minimum of 6 people, and out of that 6 people, it's one to take notes, one to activate the gun, and then it sort of swaps around so that it's not all the pressure on 1 or 2 people. That's why
can I ask you, Scott, how you're going to sort of get that up and running with current restrictions that's coming in? Obviously, is it something that we're going to look at over the next sort of few months, or could it be something, obviously, with the restrictions that we could sort? Is the restrictions going to have a burden on it? That's what I'm asking, I think.
I think me previously, the training I did was very practical. So the training I did was actually handling the gun. It was out in the open air, assessing. You can socially distance stood on a street. That's not an issue. So I can't see why we can't probably progress that, but that will be for my bosses to decide. I will have to make a representation, and then I'll be told what my answer is. So I am in the middle of pushing for that at the moment. I've taken it to Mr. Patrick, who's the area superintendent, and he has asked for clarity from the chief officer group. So as soon as we get clarity, I'll know what we can and can't do as a policy. Then I'll look at ways which we can develop a scheme. There is a legal bit we have to do. Now, we can do that like we are now on Zoom or Teams or wherever it might be. That's not an issue, but the fundamental part of it is handling and using that gun. For that, we're going to have to be together. Now, we can take all the precautions needed, so I can't see why we can't do an initial training on Zoom and then meet on the street to use the gun for me, and that's what my representation is. So I'm waiting to find out from the bosses whether I'm allowed to progress that. Hopefully that would rather be months as opposed to years, because I got it through in Carlisle inside months. So I'm hoping that I can do the same here.
Yeah, spot on. Thank you.
Councillor Heaslip.
Apologies, this isn't strictly a question for the police, but it's relevant. I recall ages ago, I think the council, through the town clerk, wrote about speed limits on urban roads in Workington to the county council, I think. And I can't remember whether you ever got a reply. Can I ask the town clerk if we did? Because that would have an influence on the speeding situation.
I'm trying to remember when that was, Mike. We certainly made some representations about speeding on the 596 past Castle Gardens, and the extension of the speed limit up to Lily Hall. Ages and ages ago, we did have a community speed watch initiative which tried to be kicked off in Harrington, but the PCSO, who was charged with trying to drum up support, didn't find any support for it, or didn't find a regulation 6, and so she eventually abandoned it, and we lost the opportunity. Those are the only 2 I can recall engaging with, apart from traffic restriction orders from the county, but I don't remember anything general about speed limits, but my brain is not what it used to be. I can go back through the minutes, Mike, if that helps.
No, that's fine. That's fine. And if it's not on the top of your head, I mean, Nick, we needn't dwell on it now. We just think it'd be nice to have some 20-mile-an-hour speed limits in residential streets, like what they've got elsewhere in Cumbria.
I believe they have them in Kendal.
The issue legally with 20-mile-an-hour speed limits is they're not enforceable. So once you put a 20-mile-an-hour speed limit in place, we can't then enforce speed on it. Don't ask me why, because it was something that was pointed out to me when I was doing a speed watch in a 20-mile-an-hour area, that we couldn't then enforce it. Some ridiculous case law that's knocked it on the head, but I can't give you the exact details of what the ins and outs of it were. I just remember we got a complaint from a member of the public that we'd sent them a community speed watch letter in a 20-mile-an-hour speed limit, and it was upheld that their complaint was right.
Sounds like a legal job for the county council to sort out to me.
It was horrific, and I did take it back to the highways and asked them for their take on it. It must have gone through Kevin Crawley, I think it was my contact at Carlisle. So it must have gone through Kevin and back to our legal department, because we didn't argue it and we were told that their complaint was upheld. So they are great in essence, but they don't always work.
As long as it has, I mean, the wonders of having a meeting online is I can check that. And it says, as I thought, as long as there's a traffic regulation order and the traffic regulation order is correctly written, then there shouldn't be a problem with the 20-mile-an-hour speed limit. What we often find, though, in Cumbria particularly, is that traffic regulation orders and things like that are not necessarily correctly written, as we found in Cockermouth.
And I wouldn't be surprised if that was the case, because it was in the middle of Botcherby. So in the middle of Carlisle there, so I wouldn't be surprised if it was a technicality written on that. I didn't get the fundamentals of what the ins and outs of it were. I just got told that the complaint was upheld.
You've got one more, Chair. Joe Holliday's got his hand up.
Oh, sorry, Councillor Holliday.
Yes, just a little on that subject of the 20-mile-an-hour. Apparently, the ruling is that they've got to be self-effective, and they have to have your speed humps and that, so to make them go at 20. That's why they don't work with the police.
Right, so it has to have further calmer measures than just the 20-mile-an-hour speed.
Mm.
Yeah, that's correct. You got where you put a 20-mile-an-hour speed limit in, you've got to have something to make them stay at 20. The humps now, you've got them right around middle of Whitehaven.
Yeah, which is a real issue for the highways, because when I was looking at previously, we had an area in Carlisle called Cumwinton, and they identified a serious issue with speed through their village. It was the 30-mile-an-hour zone, and it was any speeds up to 60 and 65 that were coming through the village. And when we looked at permanent calmer measures, it was going to cost something ridiculous like £23,000 to put in speed humps and chicanes. And what they ended up doing, which is something I would like to bring in here, is looking at all them huge planners that come in like Story Homes and build in 80 houses in an area and then walk away with a massive profit, that they pay an amount to the local councils and parish councils to improve the roads and make them roads safe. They were trying to get it through planning when I left Carlisle as a way forward in these sort of situations. So that might be something we can look at doing here. But there was a legal argument from Story that they shouldn't have to do it.
Yeah, I think that's it. Okay.
Okay. Was everyone asked every question?
I think that's us.
Because thank you very much indeed. That's been really helpful, all your answers.
Thanks, Scott.
No problem. I see Chris has got my contact details. If you are really struggling, please feel free to use them, and I will task my officers to speak to you. I won't directly do it all the time because I won't have the time, but I want to improve that communication. Like Will said, it's needed, it's required. If we're going to give you guys the right service and we're going to give the right service to the public, then we need to communicate. It's fundamental. So take that offer and please contact me if you need me.
Thank you very much. That's really good.
Thanks, Scott.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Bye. Public participation. Do we have a member of the public here? It says
Point of order,
calling
Madam
user
Mayor.
3.
Point of order, Madam Mayor.
Sorry, what's that?
Do we not need to go through apologies first? 'Cause
That's
we haven't-
next. That's next.
Follow
on
the agenda, Will.
Thank you for correcting me.
I think calling user 3 is Carol Armstrong.
Oh, is it?
I think so. We'll find out in a moment.
Right.
Because I'll do a roll call, shall I?
Right.
People have been coming and going. I noticed Blaine managed to get here, which is good. So if I do the roll call then, so Councillor Armstrong? No? She, in which case we have apologies from Councillor Armstrong. She is having problems with her IT tonight. Councillor Bainbridge?
Councillor Bainbridge present.
We have apologies, Chair, from Councillor Baldry, who is poorly tonight. Councillor Herbert Briggs.
Yeah, Councillor Herbert Briggs present.
Councillor Ryan Briggs.
Yeah, Councillor Ryan Briggs, here and present.
Councillor Barbara Cannon.
I'm here.
Thank you. Barbara's already said that she may have to duck out because she's got family issues going on in the background, which we'll have to be aware of. Councillor Beth Dixon.
Yeah, here.
Councillor David Farrer. Are you here, David? Have you gone out of the room?
I am. Can you hear me now? I am having technical difficulties.
That's okay. Councillor Sue Fryer.
Here.
Councillor Jed Glaister, I've got apologies from. He was trying to get out of the shift that he'd just been dropped into, but obviously hadn't made it. Councillor Harrington.
Present.
Councillor Heaslip.
I'm here.
Councillor Joe Holliday.
Yeah.
Councillor Hunter has sent his apologies. He's also been called into shift tonight, so obviously there's issues going on in the workforce. So he sends his apologies. Councillor King.
Councillor King present.
Councillor McCarthy. Anybody seeing Councillor McCarthy? No. Councillor Melton.
Present.
Thank you, Sean. Councillor Miskelly.
In body and soul.
Councillor Rollo.
Present.
Councillor Sansom.
Here.
Councillor Scott sent his apologies. He's in Turkey. Councillor Stoddart.
Apologies for Councillor Stoddart. Technical issues.
Apologies for technical issues. Councillor Wilkinson.
Present.
Councillor Williams.
I'm here.
So, Chair, can we take those apologies as being acceptable, those who've submitted apologies? Obviously,
Yes.
those who haven't submitted
Yeah.
apologies, then they don't count.
No, that's fine. Thank you. Next agenda item, declarations of interest. Are there any declarations of interest relating to matters which appear on the agenda but haven't been previously declared on members' declarations of pecuniary interests and other interests? Nope. Is there anything on the agenda that needs to be excluded from press and public? Don't think so. Minutes of the previous meeting. Can we accept the minutes of the last meeting?
I have a
Do we have
note,
a
Chair, from
proposer?
I have a note from Councillor Fryer, Chair. She just wants to qualify the 19.72 in the minutes. It says Councillor Fryer left the meeting. She thinks that's a bit harsh, and it should say Councillor Fryer left the meeting due to a prior engagement. And I'm happy to make that amendment.
Yeah.
Madam Mayor, can I just add in there? It wasn't a prior engagement, Chris. It was actually a work commitment.
Oh, work
and
commitment.
I did inform prior to that I would have to leave if the meeting still went on past 8 because I had a work telephone call to take at 8 p.m.
Cool. Work commitment.
Okay.
We'll call it, shall we?
That's fine.
I'll make that amendment.
Thank you.
Do we have a proposer and a seconder?
Yeah, Councillor Biggs.
Councillor Wilkinson.
Thank you all.
Thank you. Next agenda item, Maryland announcements. Again, very limited with what I've been able to do, but wherever I've been invited and I could go, I've been along.
We have two additional items, didn't we, Madam Mayor?
We did.
One which was Grow Well with the High Sheriff on the 21st of September in Vulcans Park, and the other was South Workington Youth Partnership yesterday receiving their new minibus, which was rather marvellous.
Excellent. Next agenda item, the recruitment of a new town clerk and responsible finance officer. Has everyone considered the report? Are there any questions on it? Can we vote?
Councillor Rollo has her hand up.
Oh, sorry. Sorry. Would you like to speak? So I can't see you.
Sorry, that was from a couple of items ago that I put.
Oh, sorry.
Oh, is it?
No.
It was the pecuniary interest, that's all.
Oh, right. What was that?
Oh, no, it's just Lakes College. I'm a governor of Lakes College.
Cool.
Thank you.
We have a proposer and a seconder for the recruitment process.
Councillor Cannon?
Yeah.
Thank you. I just wanted to ask a question, and it is about process. And I have mentioned it during a meeting with the subcommittee last week. I am a little uncomfortable that the council delegates an appointment to a small subcommittee of 3 people. It is often a good practice to bring an important matter like that back to full council to approve, so that the person who comes in knows they will have the support of an entire council and not just 3-4 made a decision on a Saturday afternoon. Paul Scott isn't here, but he had suggested that it was potentially possible to have an extraordinary meeting of the council just to do that. In principal authorities, you have to do that. And I'm just a little bit concerned that we are going to nod this through without having had this discussion on what is, for this council, an incredibly important appointment.
Can I suggest?
Just say.
Sorry, Janet. You.
Sorry.
I was just about to suggest this meeting now could suggest that we have a council meeting next week to approve your proposal, if that was convenient.
Yeah.
You will have to find somebody to facilitate it.
In that case, can I make that a formal proposal?
Yeah.
Seconded.
Okay. If it's okay with you, councillors, I will set that up tomorrow for this time next week, Wednesday. Would that be okay? That would. Where are we? We won't know what the outcome of your meeting is until Saturday night, but at least councillors will know that they're going to be attending a meeting. So if we reconvene a week tonight, would that be okay?
Yeah.
And then therefore the response that you give to the candidates on Saturday will be provisional on a full council decision, and that full council decision should really be held
in camera.
Yes, or precisely not in camera, in the way that we're in camera at the moment. So yeah, that should be in a part 2 with the exclusion of press and public. So I'll set that up, but I won't be able to attend that meeting because I will have actually left the council by then. Hopefully it will be relatively short.
Councillor Harrington's got a hand up.
Thank you, Councillor Mayor. I'd just like to ask, could you verify the date, please, Chris?
7 days from now, which is the 30th of September.
Okay. I think the majority of Allerdale councillors have a Zoom meeting that night as well. So what time are you anticipating this meeting?
Do you know what time the Allerdale meeting is?
It's 5:30 in the evening.
What meeting is that, Hilary?
It's to do with well, various things to do with playing at the town centre.
Oh, right.
Very important.
So that might go on. Well, to be honest, councillors, it's entirely up to you. You can have it Thursday if you prefer.
The sooner the better, I think, with this one as well. So could we just have this one either slightly later or earlier than the 5:30? It shouldn't take very long, surely, this meeting.
Do you want to go for 5 o'clock on Thursday? On Wednesday?
That would suit me fine, but I don't know about the rest of the Allerdale councillors.
Sorry, no, I'll be at work.
Some people will be at work at that time.
The meeting, Chris, is a stadium development briefing meeting with Kevin Kerrigan, and it's planned for 1 hour and 30 minutes. So that would take it up to 7 p.m.
Do you want to go for 7:30?
If it runs on time.
Yeah. Again, it's entirely up to you, councillors, what you want to do.
7:30 would be fine for me.
Does that work for you, Barbara?
Yeah.
7:30 on Wednesday. What I'll do, Janet, is I will give the host of the meeting to you, so that you can host that. But I'll send out the invites tomorrow.
I sincerely hope it goes well then if I'm hosting.
Agenda.
Madam Mayor.
Pardon?
Yeah. Could I suggest that you also have a co-host in Chair of Finance and General Purposes Committee as well?
Yeah.
Because he's rather up to speed with using Zoom. He's been working with Cumbria County Council on it, as well as Allerdale, as well as Workington Town Council.
I'll make Paul the co-host, but Will.
Yeah, it's just to aid smooth running. That's all I'm suggesting.
Yep.
Well said, Will.
Cool.
We've got Councillor Linda, Councillor Williamson, followed by Councillor Holiday.
Right, could I be excused because the teenagers have set fire again to the garden and put aerosols and that on? I'm going to have to go.
Is this now, Linda?
This is now.
Right.
Yeah.
This is now. I've asked for the police to attend as well. It's getting out of hand.
26. Thanks, Linda.
Okay, thank you.
Bye.
Thanks, bye.
Oh, you got Joe Holiday still.
Oh, sorry, I've asked. I would like to speak.
Could you make sure I get the invite to that meeting, Chris? I don't seem to be getting them.
Yeah, no, it'll go to everybody.
I don't seem to be on this system because I haven't been getting them.
Right, I'll double check.
Okay.
Double check. Okay.
Sorry, where did we get to?
Princess
Chris?
Street, next item.
Right, sorry. Right, Princess Street Daycare Centre. To consider a proposal that the Town Council purchases the Princess Street Daycare Centre from Cumbria County Council for £50,000 subject to correct process, and that the Council funds the purchase through a loan from the Public Works Loan Board for the value of the building, plus the sum for the necessary renovations. Are there any questions or comments on that? Do you want to go ahead and vote on the recommendation?
No. Yeah, I've got my hand up.
Oh, I'm so sorry. Yes, sorry.
Can I just speak to this report, because I'm a little bit concerned, and I'll explain why. Some of you won't know this, but I used to be the portfolio holder for adult social care, so I actually know this building quite well. And a very close relative of mine used the centre as a user for quite a long time too. So I've taken an interest in what was going to happen to it. I do think that we need to just think this through a little bit more, and I'll explain why. Devolution white paper that we keep getting copied into is likely to create a unitary authority or authorities in Cumbria. And it's going to provide some significant opportunities for town and parish councils to actually take into its ownership property that unitaries will divest. I've been around in local government long enough to remember the former Workington Borough Council. When Allerdale was created, Workington Borough Council had to divest quite a bit of land and property in Workington and is set up during a sort of shadow period. I suspect that any transitional period for a unitary authority will have whoever's in charge of that going through all properties and saying the unitary won't want that, they won't want that. And the County Council's proposal to government, which was submitted 2 weeks ago, had actually said that they would ask town and parish councils to take stuff on. There is also another way to do that, just to make sure it doesn't disappear. I haven't seen in any of the reports whether there was any consideration for asking the County Council for a community asset transfer of this building directly to the Town Council. I take as one of the examples I can give you in Workington of a community asset transfer, it's quite a famous one, Hillary will know all about it, is when the County Council declared the old Moor Close School surplus to requirements. They did a community asset transfer to the Moor Close Community Centre, and years later they even transferred the sixth form block across to that, at no cost to the community. So I think in terms of value for money, we sometimes should, we ought to stop and pause and think about that. The other thing was, I have read the valuation report, and I have to say it's not my most favourite report of all time to read, but I was concerned with the surveyor's report and its commentary. Basically, the County Council has valued the property at £65,000. The valuer thinks that the state of the building is such that it's more like 30,000. I don't know how you've got yourself into a situation where you offered 50,000, but you have. But on top of that, you're actually acknowledging that in order to put this building right, you could be spending another £60,000. And on top of that, if you take a loan out, the cost of that loan over time actually escalates the cost of the building too. So, for example, you haven't actually said how long you would take a loan out. And in tradition, local authorities take loans out for sometimes forever. But say you took a loan out for 10 years, then the total cost of this what is currently a derelict building would cost another 7,300 whatever, or £11,000 a year. If you took it out for 20 years, the loan would add the cost on another £25,000. So you have to stop and think about value for money and what you're getting a ratepayer into, because at the end of the day, we might not be around then, but it is the ratepayer that's going to pay for it. There are other ways too, right? So apart from the community asset transfer, where I don't think we've got anything to lose by asking, I've also looked at the accounts of the council. On the 31st of March, we carried forward in our balances £306,000. That is ratepayers' money, which we were originally, going back in time, was collecting so that we could do a back lanes. And over time, that's not been possible because there was a time when the county council was able to put a contribution towards it. Now that they're not in that position anymore, and that entire scheme has folded. But you could actually take money out of balances. You could also look at the budget for this year, because you've already cancelled the Christmas lights and the winter festival. There's undoubtedly all sorts of other things that have been cancelled this year through no fault of our own. So you could actually also look at your existing budget and fire money out of that, therefore avoiding a loan in the first place. Our preference would be to actually ask the council for a community asset transfer to the town council to take what is to them, something that they don't want off their hands. And I know what Chris will say, right? So I'll preempt this too. I know that when you're in negotiation with officers in the property department of the county council, their instruction will be to get some money from surplus assets. But to negotiate, you need to negotiate at a political level. You need to write a letter to the portfolio holder. You need to go through the proper process of a community asset transfer, which is a proper way of doing things. And the county council would have to take that on board and take it quite seriously. So I would like to propose that we consider the other options rather than just passing this tonight.
Madam Mayor, before we move on to other comments, can I just respond to Barbara's points? Obviously, we have asked for a community asset transfer, and you're absolutely right that the property department of the county council said they weren't interested in that. But we also tried a political approach. I wrote to every member of Allerdale Local Area Committee about a month ago to say, look, the situation isn't really acceptable, that the county council is asking for double the price of the property that's been valued by, if you look at the byline on the property report, you'll see that the man who valued it was actually the former head of property at Cumbria County Council. So he also full well knows how the county council system works. And he was also saying that we should really be getting this as a community asset transfer. But I was told in no uncertain terms by colleagues at the county council that that wasn't an option, and that the building would go up for auction at the end of October. Now, I appreciate that's playing hardball, but I think the property is of value to this council, so I'm bringing it forward to you as a proposal. The second point I wanted to make, and before you go on to discuss Barbara's amendment, is the balances on the back lane account is only around £46,000. The majority of money in the council's accounts are actually in reserves that are earmarked for causes like, for instance, Vulcans Park or other areas like that. So if you go back and look at the earmarked balances, you'll see that actually most of that money is already spoken for in some shape or form. But so sorry, I give you back the floor.
Can I just come back? When I talk about negotiation, it isn't talking to the local committee. It will be the portfolio holder and the cabinet of the county council. You need to go through a different process. I'm quite happy to actually help you to do that. I can go and speak to the politicians that make the difference and make the decisions. I've said before, this council has to recognise there are people on it who have a lot of skill and influence about how to work the system. And if we're not careful, the people of Workington might start asking why we haven't gone through those kind of processes and made a bit of a fuss about it. I think sometimes, slow and steady wins the race here. And I know, Chris, you're probably trying to get this through because you're leaving and you want to put a little line under it. But I just think that this might not work for us. And if we could get it for nothing, it would be better than spending money, a huge amount of money, on what is still a derelict building.
Janet, you've got Joe Holliday, Mary Bainbridge, Billy Miskelly and Sean Melton and Will Wilkinson.
Right. Can everyone remember that order?
And Joe was first, I think, and then Mary.
Okay. Right.
Yeah, all I can say is, for a start off, I think it should probably declare an interest in being a county councillor. But other than that, I've got to agree there with Ms Cannon. I was on the scrutiny of the county council when it was made a rule that anything that became unused by them, unwanted, would automatically be offered as asset transfer. And I think we can go back and find the minutes of those meetings to see that would be the case.
Can I comment on that, Chris? Was there not something about that county were going to put it up for auction if we didn't, because they weren't going to offer it to us for nothing?
The county property were talking to play hardball, and I appreciate what Barbara says, that I'm not in a position to play the political card quite in the same way, and nor is the many councillors, but the county property were talking about playing fairly hardball and putting the thing up for auction. So it's entirely plausible that we from this meeting that we just go back to the county and say, no, actually this really should be a community asset transfer. It should have been a community asset transfer when it kicked off. I mean, I brought this to you first last Christmas. It should have been a community asset transfer then. I discussed it at length with Councillor Alan Barry, who's the ward member, the division member for the county council. We agreed it should be a community asset transfer, but I can't actually get a community asset transfer started when I get stonewalled by county officers. So it should have had political involvement, and maybe it's for this council to go back and say, yeah, we really do need to make some more political points. And actually get the county to do the proper thing. You've got Mary next, I think, Janet.
Right. Hi. I just wanted to say that I agree with what Barbara says, because I don't believe that we should be getting a loan out. When you look at what we're going to need, I sort of haven't looked at the figures. It meant it would cost almost £187,000 for that building, and we really should not be spending that money expecting members of the public to actually pay that money. I think it's totally wrong. I think we have to look at the asset transfer. However, I'll be completely honest, I do not think that we should be moving from the town hall, where it is a prominent place where people can be there. Princess Street is out of the way and people will not have the access to it. And so I'm totally opposed to the idea anyway. Thank you.
Was Councillor Wilkinson next?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Well, I can't understand why anybody wants to keep on paying £16,000 to £18,000 rent per annum to another authority for the building that we're in. This building actually will be paying for itself. Devolution is not guaranteed. You can put as many white papers out as you want, but there is no guarantee that people are going to accept devolution or vote for it. If the council has already been asked as far back as last Christmas with regards community asset transfers and playing hardball, and the negotiations that our town clerk has been doing has proved they're going to play hardball. They're not interested in doing it and are actually threatening to put it up for auction for redevelopment. I believe we're going to miss the boat. If it's going up in October for auction, you can waste as much time as you want trying to debate and lobby people, but if they follow through what they say they're going to do, that's what they'll do. And then the opportunity is gone altogether. Now, if you consider the savings on rent that we are paying Allerdale Borough Council, this is actually a saving, not a cost. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Heaslip.
Thank you, Chair, Madam Mayor. I'm just checking because I haven't noticed anybody seconding this. Is Councillor Joe Holliday seconded this motion? Because if nobody seconded it, we can't discuss it. If nobody else has seconded it, I'll second it, and I'll second it unless Joe Holliday seconded it.
I second it, Mike.
What's the motion, Mike, that we're seconding? Just clarify for me.
The amendment, or the proposition, and whether it's an motion or amendment, the proposition put forward by Councillor Cannon. I think it's perfectly possible. Yes, you could officer to officer on property deals, but really the way these things get sorted out in politics is where a council leader talks to a council leader, or a committee chair talks to an executive member and sorts these things out. That's how it actually happens in the real world. The other point I would make is that 2 items down the agenda, there's a proposition from myself to which this is relevant, because actually Workington Town Hall was one of those buildings which was handed over from Workington Corporation and taken by Allerdale Borough Council, because at the time Workington Parish Council was prevented from existing. So one possibility is that in the discussions I'm going to propose 2 items down, that one of those buildings we'll look to take complete ownership of for nothing, because it's done as a local authority property transfer, not as a purchase. For nothing would be Workington Town Hall, whereupon we would cease to pay the £16,000 rent. So that would no longer be an issue, because it would be our building and we wouldn't pay the rent if it was returned to us by Allerdale Borough Council. That's irrespective of whether the unity happens or not, because that legislation on transferring buildings applies irrespective of unities. It applies now. It's applied since 1974. It's just that we've never actually taken it up. But that's a matter for the debate at 2 items down the agenda. And for the moment, I'd want to support Barbara Carron's amendment, if it's an amendment, because we could sort this politically And even if we couldn't sort it politically, it is perfectly feasible that we get the town hall handed over by Allerdale Borough Council. Anyway, for nothing. So why purchase something if you can get something?
You've got Councillor Melton, Janet.
Councillor Melton, yeah.
Thank you, Madam Mayor.
I was third in line, Chris. Where have I gone?
Sorry, can Councillor Melton speak, please?
I was third in line. Have I been missed out again?
Sorry, Billy, if you can come in after Sean. I think your hand was just after Sean's. Sean.
Thank you, Billy. Barbara Cannon's question for you. Do we have time for you to go back to Cumbria County Council and try and negotiate this? Or can we actually, if it doesn't work, go through, do we have the funds available to go to auction and possibly get it for a cheaper price?
Do you want me to answer that?
Yes, please, Barbara.
Oh, right, okay. There is always time.
I'm going off your experience here with what you said.
Yeah, one of the points I've been trying to make is that, and Joe has tried to make it, and somebody else has too, is that my experience of the property department in the county council, these are officers, are like hawks. They just go out there, and they don't, you know, they need to be reined in a little bit. If their politicians don't know what's being said, and I'm not talking at local committee level, because they don't have the devolved authority for this. It is actually cabinet level that makes that decision. And I almost did pick up the phone this afternoon to speak to the leader of the council, just to ask him if they can delay that. I think you make a big fuss, you go to the press, you talk about that. They don't like a fuss. They like things to be quiet and go down that route. The idea of getting it cheaper on auction is quite interesting. I wouldn't like to test it because you might lose it, but I know that some properties at auction have gone a lot cheaper than people had expected. But the county might put a reserve price on or something like that. I think you should just hold your nerve just for a little bit longer and go and talk turkey with the politicians.
Thank you,
Barbara. Billy, I think, was waving something.
Do you mean by waving something, sticking the hand up, Chris? Yes, I was. Thank you very much. Now, before I vote on out or make any decisions, I'd like to go back to your report because it's a bit clouded in one part. And as you know, I like looking at things because I'm nosy. Current accommodation. The council currently pays rent to Allerdale Borough Council for 6 rooms in the town hall and pays rent to Benson Coaches for the lock-up in Miller Close. In total, the council pays $16,500 a year in rent, which includes business rates and utility bills. Right, very good. What do they pay? Forget the lock-up. What do they pay for the town hall?
Just take about 900 quid off that.
Take 900 quid. So
it's about 50. Yeah.
I've got my calculator. I can assist.
£15,900, something like that.
15,000, right? So 15,900.
Or 15,500.
By 52 is a month is 754. Divide by 6 because there's 6 rooms. We pay. Hang on a sec. We pay very little, don't we, for a room with the rent and everything? Would you like to say how much we pay, Chris?
Sorry, Billy, I'm not sure what you're trying to say.
Well, what I'm trying to say is, if we get ourselves in debt, right, in this climate, with a loan, to buy a building that's of a cost, that's dilapidated. I know it's dilapidated because I knew that before the surveyor's report, because I went with my mother, who's a good builder, and looked at it, and he said, it's knackered. We haven't even seen what the boiler's like, and I can tell you from using the trades all, they are dodgy and expensive. I think, never mind the time limit, I think we should do what Barbara does and do what Sean does. We could get it for now, we could get it for cheaper, or if we go through Mike Eastlip's, we could get it for now again. Let's not rush into it. There's no rush. And besides this, as Mary says, the town hall is known as the council's home, right? People know where it is. It's a council's spiritual home. If someone from I went up to Miller Close, I wouldn't know any of them streets. So if someone come from Miller Close, well, the heck would they know where Princess Seat is? We're not talking sensibly. Thank you very much, Madam Mayor. I've said enough. Bye-bye.
Thank you. Councillor Holiday. Sorry, did you want to say something, Councillor Holiday?
Sorry, I'm pressing the wrong button there.
Oh, sorry.
What I was going to say was there was concerns about this building going to auction before we did it in Parish Council, where I've been the clerk for a number of years, had a building there at school, which the clock tower had the clocking belonged to the Parish Council, etc. That building went to auction, but was withdrawn while we had the opportunity to have an asset transfer. But we done a deal with a developer who took the rest of the school on, and we got the clock tower for nothing, which was a piece that we wanted to carry on with the clock. So it was still viable. And I think should support Mrs. Cannon in if she's willing to go along and negotiate this on our behalf.
Thank you. Councillor Harrington.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I entirely agree with Councillor Cannon. Lots of things have changed since we've started putting this on the table. Devolution has moved so fast over recent weeks and days even there on that one. And I don't think it's any harm in trying to get something from nothing for nothing rather than pay for it. And as I say, I do think it's worthwhile going down that path that's been suggested by Councillor Cannon. And the other matters can be all sorted out after that is sorted out. If we can get it for nothing, hands up to everybody. If we've got to pay, so be it. But the other finer details we can go into later on when we're further down the line of purchasing this property rather than at this moment in time. I think it's important and vital. Speed is the essence here. And Barbara Cannon, if we can take up her offer of her expertise in this kind of matter and to go forward to get it for free. I agree with the motion amendment of Barbara Councillor Cannon. Thank you.
Linda's just rejoined us at 1956.
Thanks, guys.
Chris, can I just tell you, Councillor Hunter's trying to get in as well.
Councillor who?
Hunter.
Who is he? He's not in the waiting room.
I've got him here sending me a message saying he's trying to get in.
Well, he's got the invite. Sorry, Chair, I'm just trying to see where we got. It sounds like we have a proposal that we actually followed Barbara's suggestion, which is that we go back to the County Council and perhaps using Barbara's political links, try and go back to the community asset transfer solution, which was certainly one that was being tried before, but to no avail. But having a different approach is probably going to be more successful. Does that summarise the situation?
I'd just like to say that the building it was looked at, and its location, its size, the fact that we can accommodate the estates team there and everything. It seems a really good building. Although it might be dilapidated, it can be repaired. So I think it would be good if we can make sure we get it, because again, the town hall is really dilapidated, and it's more like a rabbit warren. It's not what you expect from a town hall. So that's just my thoughts anyway. Did Councillor Melton want to speak again? His hand's up. No?
No.
Sorry
Will,
about
did you
it,
want,
just on before.
Will, did
Sorry?
you want to say something extra?
Just that Councillor Hunter's trying to get in, and he keeps on clicking the link, and he can't get in.
Right, I'll email him a separate link. All right. So, Chair, the resolution seems to be that we go back to the County Council and ask to negotiate further. Cool.
Right.
Okay.
Yeah.
Councillor Harrington?
Beth has her hand up. Is that you agreeing, Beth?
Sorry, Councillor Harrington wanted to speak, I think, but what?
Hilary, were you trying to say something?
Oh.
Yes, what I would like to say, we still have to keep an eye on the situation regarding the auction of these premises as well.
For sure.
Very important.
And what I tried to do to slow this process down is to register the community centre, the Princess Street Centre, as an asset of community value, which is a process that the government introduced about 10 years ago to allow smaller organisations like ours to stop large organisations from selling assets that we valued. And one of the things I think we have to notice about this particular building is that it isn't just a building, it's a good 400 square metres of our park, which we currently maintain as park. I tried to register that as an asset of community value with Allerdale Borough Council, and Allerdale Borough Council refused, which I thought was a bit harsh. Perhaps that's something we could take up with them again.
Indeed. Could we go to a vote, please? It's 8 o'clock.
Yes, can we
Madam
go
Mayor?
to the vote?
So the proposal on the table is that we don't proceed with the proposal which suggested that we approach the Public Works Loan Board, do due diligence, blah 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 blah. But we actually go back to Cumbria County Council, perhaps using the good offices of Councillor Cannon to negotiate further on the theme of community asset transfer. Is that correct? Yeah. So those in favour of the motion?
How do we show?
It's for the chair to decide. But if you raise your hand, Mike, I can see that.
Well, there's people that aren't on camera. How do we count them?
Do you want a roll call? I can do a roll call.
Yep. Yeah.
Get me book. So this is item 7. Councillor Bainbridge.
Councillor Bainbridge in favour.
Councillor Herbert Briggs.
Councillor Herbert Briggs against.
Councillor Ryan Briggs.
Councillor Ryan Briggs against.
Councillor Cannon.
For the amendment.
Councillor Dixon.
For the amendment.
Councillor Farrer.
For the amendment.
Councillor Fryer.
For.
Councillor Harrington.
For.
Councillor Heaslip. For. Councillor Holliday. Joe, I'm going to take that as Joe is in favour.
Yeah, for, sorry.
Councillor King, I'll come back to you. Councillor Melton. For. Councillor Miskelly.
For.
Councillor Rollo.
For.
Councillor Sansom.
Against.
Against. Councillor Wilkinson.
Against.
And Councillor Williams.
Am I on?
Yeah.
Against.
I have 11 in favour of the motion that we go back to the County Council and ask for a community asset transfer, and 5 against. So the motion stands. Will, that's notwithstanding Johnny's presence, it wouldn't have actually made a material difference to this vote. So I apologise that I haven't managed to get him in the room. But even if he'd voted against, it wouldn't make a material difference. So that motion is carried in whatever the amendment was. Okay, thank you.
Item 8, financial regulations. To consider the proposed changes to the Council's financial regulations to enable the effective use of electronic and online banking, including the receipt of card payments. Can we vote on the recommendation to accept it? Can we have a proposer and a seconder?
Propose it.
Lane, thank you.
Councillor Briggs, second.
Thank you. Is there anybody against this?
No.
No. I think it's fairly unanimous, Chair.
Okay.
Unless anybody has anything passionate to say.
No. Item 8, Councillor Heaslip's notice of motion.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I was just getting myself unmuted. I'd like to move the proposition at item 8 on the agenda, and in doing so refer you to the background information which appears at Appendix B, which tells a rather fuller story of what could be regarded as a rather complicated issue. But in effect, the wording of the actual motion, notice of motion, actually says it all. There was some land that was owned by Workington Corporation, that is effectively the electors of Workington in 1974, under various headings. Some of it went to other councils as they took over the functions, like highways land went to the Highways Department, the new County Council, and so on. Libraries also went to the new County Council. Other bits of property went to Aldale Council. Whichever council was discharging the function took over the land for nothing, which is only right and proper. But there were 2 classes of land, corporate land and parish land, which under the legislation could have gone to Workington Town Council, but Workington Town Council was prohibited from existing for a time. But when it was reinstated in 1982, there was provision in that reinstatement for the issue of what happened to those parish or corporate assets that hadn't gone to another local authority for operational purposes should be settled, but it never was. We've dealt with bits of it, myself and Mrs. Cannon, while we were executive members in another place, in transferring the likes of Hulkins Park and allotments and so on, back to, not just to Workington Town Council, but to the other councils they were taken from back in 72. But there's a lot of unfinished business there. Operational land obviously would not be covered by this because that's that's needed for those kinds of operational purposes. Parish land is clearly defined in the legislation. Covers things like parks, recreation grounds, public clocks, that sort of thing. Corporate land is a bit more difficult to define. You need to interpret the arcane wording of the Local Government Act 1933. so that would need to be looked at. But my suggestion is that there's a significant amount of land, property holdings in Workington that could be transferred back to Workington Town Council under the 1973 Local Government Property Order and the 1982 Allerdale Parishes Order, so that we as a council should be opening early discussions with Allerdale Borough Council about progressing that. It's sat there without being fully progressed, apart from those bits that me and Mrs. Cannon did, without being fully progressed for long enough. Maybe the possibility of unitary local government gives it some added urgency, because I can imagine new unitary authority, short of cash, looking at some of the rather more valuable assets that were obtained from Workington Corporation back in 1974, and flogging them off to pay for development elsewhere, or to keep their the council tax down, which actually, the assets of the old Workington Corporation have been keeping Allerdale Council's council tax rate down for 45 years. But it's about time they came back to Workington. It's even possible, if we exceeded in obtaining all the assets, that we'd get more income from what those assets bring in every year than we actually currently raise in a council tax precept. You might not even need to raise a precept, because your property income would in fact cover all your expenditure, possibly, but that would depend on the outcome of the negotiations. So with that background explanation, I'm quite happy to answer any questions on the information I supplied later at the end of the debate. But with that in mind, I'd like to propose the motion that appears on your paper at item 8. Thank you, Madam Mayor.
All right, got to unmute. Sorry, does anyone want to comment on that, or do we have a seconder?
I second, Madam Mayor.
Okay. Can we take that as just? Oh God, do we need to vote on that?
Do you want to take it to a vote?
Is everyone happy with that, or?
Billy, is that you being happy?
Can you unmute?
I wish to speak. May I speak?
Yes, please do.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Right, what Mike's proposed, it's a win-win. Any councillor on this council that doesn't vote for it, because we've nothing to lose, will not be serving their constituents. It isn't political, it's for the benefit of the people of Workington. So it's not political, so anyone that votes against it, in my view, is not representing their constituents. Thank you, Madam Mayor.
Thank you. Are we all agreed?
We've got Will and Joe to speak.
Sorry, I've lost. Right, okay. Councillor Wilkinson?
Yes. Can I just reiterate what Councillor Miss Kelly says? I think is correct. Anything for nothing is a win-win situation. And yes, if this motion isn't proposed, isn't seconded, I would like to second it.
Okay. Councillor Holliday?
I've got a problem with this as far as what Mr. Billy Kelly says about it affecting the constituents in your ward. Whether Allerdale Town Council or anything, still the constituency ward, so that isn't an issue. As far as the motion itself being the land and everything, it was 6-year difference between this becoming Allerdale land and so on in 74. It was 82 before this council existed, so you can't say it should have been with them. So I've got to disagree with this. Thank you.
Thank you.
Sounds like we're going to a vote, Janet.
Right. Okay, thank you.
I do apologise, councillors. I know this is item 8, and the last item was also item 8. I noticed, certainly on my agendas. What can I say? Sack the clerk. So we're going to roll call the vote again.
Okay.
And the proposal is as per Mike's motion. Councillor Bainbridge.
Councillor Bainbridge for.
Councillor Herbert Briggs. I missed that, Herb. We'll come back to Herbert. Councillor Ryan Briggs.
Councillor Ryan Briggs for.
Councillor Barbara Cannon.
For.
Councillor Dixon.
For.
Councillor Farrer.
For.
Councillor Fryer.
For.
Councillor Harrington.
For.
Councillor Heaslip.
For.
Councillor Holliday.
Again.
Councillor Johnny Hunter has joined the meeting. Johnny. Okay, he's not saying anything.
Chris?
Yeah.
Point of order.
Yeah.
Was Councillor Hunter in for the full debate? Because he may not fully know what he's voting on if he wasn't in for the full
Well,
debate.
he's here in the room. Councillor Melton.
For.
Councillor Miskelly.
For.
Councillor Rollo.
For.
Councillor Sansom.
For.
Councillor Wilkinson.
For.
And Councillor Williams.
For.
Even with those who Herbert, are you a for or against on this?
Yeah, I'm against. And you said you missed what I said. It wasn't me that actually said anything, Chris.
I have 14 votes in favour and 1, 2, 2 votes against, Chair, which means the motion is carried.
Thank you. Right. Now, reports from committees. Finance and General Purposes Committee. Has anyone any queries on that, or can we accept the minutes?
Yep.
We propose that and a seconder.
Councillor Wilkinson.
Yeah. And Councillor Sansom.
Joe, have you still got your hand up for a reason?
So Chris, I just haven't got it put down.
Okay. Can we take that as a yes vote then, please?
Yep. Planning committee. It's just noting the planning committee. Sorry, we didn't have a committee meeting, so note the planning comments. Is that okay? And then environment committee.
Madam Mayor, can I ask a question?
Oh, sorry, Councillor Farrer. Yes, please do.
So, in relation to the delegated decisions made and the delegated authority, it doesn't actually specify which councillors have been consulted.
On the whole, David, I consult the whole committee if the issue is large scale. I mean, this is slightly skewed by the fact that we changed it slightly during coronavirus. So in the height of lockdown, I consulted the whole committee. The actual delegation scheme that we have just allows me to consult the chair and the vice chair.
Right. So in relation to the comments that were put forward to Allerdale Borough Council, were they based upon representations you've made to the chairman and the vice chairman, or person, or was to the full committee?
I think the majority of those were to the whole committee.
Okay, thank you.
Councillor Dixon, did you want to speak?
Yeah, why now every other committee's meeting, why isn't planning, if you're consulting all the planning committee meeting, all the people on the committee, why not just meet? Yeah.
Well, to be honest, that was the nature of the sort of changes through lockdown. So we've met up until the point where we didn't meet this last month because there weren't any planning applications.
Right, it's just there was quite a lot on the list, so
that's me giving you the whole flavour of what's happened since whenever it was.
Yeah, I just think everybody else committees have met twice, so I just don't understand. If a committee's there, it's there to do a job, and it should be meeting. And we've got ways of doing it because it's through Corona, and to be open and transparent. We need to know who's making these recommendations by name and not just by delegate. Yeah.
So it's really incumbent on, as you can see, the last meeting we didn't have was the 7th of September, and there were just the 2 items. So we didn't have a meeting. Prior to that, we were still in sort of lockdown rules, but yeah, the planning meeting should meet.
Okay, can we go on to the Environment Committee? Does Councillor Harrington want to comment on that?
Does anyone like to make any comment on the report from the Environment Committee? Beth Dixon?
I'd like to thank the chair for actually letting me attend and comment on some items on the agenda, which I thought was very useful, and for following up with a visit to the park as well. I was very grateful for that, and obviously so you can see what state the park is in and what we are dealing with, and that it is actually getting quite derelict and quite dangerous, I think. Can I ask that the clerk, obviously you're not going to be here, but he did suggest that we ask for this health and safety reports and checks from castles and coasts for the park. Can I ask for that to be followed up, and that actually the reports get put on the agenda for the next environmental committee meeting?
Thanks, Beth, for that. I did request that, but I think the town clerk has the answer to that one, Councillor Dixon.
What I've suggested, Beth, is that we do what we did, and I've just written it down that I will do it tomorrow morning. We do have to contact castles and coasts, bearing in mind what Councillor Cannon was saying earlier about going higher up the system. We do have to actually contact castles and coasts senior management to express our concern. I think it's not necessarily appropriate for council staff to be doing formal assessments of what amounts to another landowner's facilities unless things are really quite desperate. So I would suggest that we don't necessarily go down the route of pitting, our estate team versus somebody else's estate team. I think that would be.
No, that's not what I was saying. We had that discussion, and you suggested that we ask for the reports that were done monthly.
Oh yes, I see. Yes. So we'll go to Castles and Coasts and ask to see those reports, and that's what I've made a note to do.
Councillor Cannon and then Councillor
Just
Miskelly.
go back to Beth Dixon, if you like.
Oh, sorry, Hillary.
Just to say, if we don't have a reply by 2 weeks, we'll try and step things up further, because it's been going on for, what, 18 months now that I know about.
4 years.
4 years then. It's time it was really, really resolved. We'll push ahead with that one, with the hierarchy now. But thanks for your patience, Beth. Thank you very much for that. Councillor Miss Kelly, you
Thank you very much,
Kelly.
Chair. Thank you. Wouldn't be the same if I didn't ask you questions, would it, Chair? It wouldn't. It's tradition
I think,
now.
sorry, Billy, did Barbara want to say something about the last item?
Did you want to come in, Councillor Cannon?
It was about the play area development and the frustration that, which has gone on for a long time as well, about Westfield and trying to find a decent play area. The last time we had a conversation, or I did, we were looking at, what do they call those little panacourt, is it? The little football jobs. And we weren't able to find somewhere, so it ended up being put into Salterbeck, which was fine, but I still remain quite frustrated that we can't find somewhere. We did, because of the intervention of the South Workington Youth Partnership and the work they did, we put a place for teenagers down in Moss Bay. But I remember quite a lot of parents saying to me it was fine, but it wasn't really for the smaller kids, and that we still have this gap in that area. I do think we're going to have to make greater efforts to find a solution.
Okay, I agree with you, Councillor Cannon there. Now, I would like to pass you over to Chris, because he'll have more detail of how many sites we've looked at in that area to accommodate the play area. Chris, would you like to answer that one, please?
Yeah, I'm delighted to, Barbara. But when you're discussing Princess Street, perhaps you could discuss finding a county council-owned bit of land in South Workington at the same time, because I get the same answer that I do whenever I spoke to county property, which is there's nothing, we haven't got anything, go away, we're not interested. I get the same answer from Allerdale property too, so obviously I don't have the clout that councillors do when it comes to these things. So yeah, I'd be delighted if we could find an area.
Thank you, Chris, there on that one. Councillor Miss Kelly, were you next? I think you were next.
Thank you very much, Chair. Thank you. Just a couple of questions, not important really. It's additional street cleaning, E19.88. You introduced a proposal to improve a visible street cleaning in Harrington due to a particular problem with due to a relationship with the marina. Could you explain or tell me what that is, please?
To what extent, Councillor Miss Kelly, to do with the street cleaner itself, or to do with Harrington Marina?
No, the extra street cleaning you wanted, because yes. I'm very keen for extra street cleaning, you see, because I always am. So, what is the particular problem? It says you felt Harrington had a particular problem due to the relationship with the marina. What's the particular problem?
The problem is the vast amount of vehicles that we have down in the area and the vast amount of people that do come down. It is a fair weather problem, I will admit that. But we have so many stationary cars on Church Road and all the surrounding areas, especially Road Close, that a street car cleaner is not sufficient, it does not do the job properly. There's a lot of litter from the schools and shops and blah, blah, blah down there, which are unable to be picked up, as I say, by machine. It has to be done manually. And I was thinking to keep the weeds from off the street, the curbs, to get the muck out of the street curbs, it will stop weeds growing anyhow. So it's a win-win situation, but it is a cost. Who is going to own? Apparently, Workington Town Council cannot employ anyone to do that. And it is the, and I do agree with what they said, with Tivoli doing their job properly. But by the time you chase Tivoli around the houses, the jobs aren't getting done properly. I don't know why, because of the pandemic, I don't know. We need to highlight this big problem in my area, and I like to keep my area neat, clean, tidy.
Oh, you're known for that, Chair. Now, I've full sympathy, right? It's a shame. It's a shame that happened. You never got it. Now, I notice at the bottom you're going to go with a next to investigation. Now,
yes.
If you come back, I'm going to back you all the way. I really am, because we have the same particular problem in St. Michael's Ward, but on a larger scale, because we've got the docks, the beach and all that. So I want you to get it so we can get it, but of course with proportional representation, which means St. Michael's might be entitled to more. So if I can help you with that investigation, please give me a call anytime. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much for your offer of help, Councillor Miskelly. I appreciate it so much. Thank you so much. Is that all at once? First question. You made me smile, Billy. It's okay on that one. Okay, so that's ends my report then.
I think, did Councillor Heaslip want to comment?
Oh, Councillor Heaslip. I can't see any indication you want to speak, Michael.
Oh, well, I've got my hand up on the...
No, I can't see that.
Oh, well, right. Well, fortunately, the mayor can.
Thank you.
I was just a quick point. We should surely be able to find some land in Westfield that could be used as play area, because there's a massive block of land which used to be Southfield School, which has an entrance from, oh dear, I can't remember the name of the road.
Windsor Road, Mike.
Windsor Road.
Windsor Road.
Windsor Road.
There's not only a piece of land there. I've photographed it and sent it to the county council.
Yes, yes. So we really should. The county council cannot say there's no suitable land there. There were playing fields there, tennis courts, all sorts. Right off, just handy for Windsor Road. We've got an ideal site. We just need to pick somebody hard enough at the county council to do something about it. I hope Mrs. Cannon can do that if she's still with us, or if she is, I can see her. Thank you.
Okay, I appreciate those. I understand those remarks, Councillor Heaslip, there on that one. And as I say, we will do our utmost. I appreciate that. I do absolutely think all children in all areas should have a play area. And if Westfield is lacking, well, it'll be one of our top priorities. We've got one or two others we have to see to during this budget year, but I'm sure next year it'll be top of our list. Thank you.
Councillor Melton wants to speak.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Hilary, we have had nothing in Westfield for many, many years. There's no parks whatsoever. I've had 2 walk-arounds recently with Westfield Housing, looking at possible sites. One, Mr. Heaslip's just mentioned, on the old Salterbeck site. The other one, which I was proposing, was over at the old welfare site. I think that would need more road crossings and things. The other development site was the old park back of Windsor Road, which used to be a park, which a few of us obviously remember. But Westfield are also looking at development for old age pensioners, bungalows, flats. They're looking for a developer to help. So we do need some sort of park, play area for younger children. Myself personally, I would like to see somebody around the ages of the parks between 1 year to 6 years max. I don't want all these parks where there's going to be a lot of noise, violence. There's a lot of antisocial behaviour up here at the moment, which the police are aware of. I just think we need a bit of experience up here. Councillor Cannon's already mentioned that she would be involved in it, which is fantastic. I think a few of us need to go our heads together around this area, who are councillors, and try and sort this out. It's something that I'm asked for quite regular.
Okay, thank you, Sean. Councillor Milton, I appreciate what you said and I understand. All I can move forward, we'll move forward on this one now directly. You said you've looked at 2 or 3 sites that could be possibility of this happening. Could we agree to meet up? I don't know whether you want the new town clerk with us or
that would be great. New town clerk, I could get Westfield Housing involved as well. That would be great.
Yes, that's fine. So we can possibly liaison with this one, Councillor Milton, next week.
Yep.
And
Hilary, can I suggest you actually wait until you've got a new clerk, and then you can actually get the new clerk and they can have a fresh pair of eyes.
When is he due to be installed, Chris, please?
Well, we've just...
The 28th.
You ain't going to get anything done until they're installed, so you may as well wait till they're done.
I'm only joking. Well, we're convening 3 weeks for the clerk to get embedded in the new duties. And I promise you, Councillor Melton, I will meet up with you and the rest of the other dignitaries that are responsible for the land and get something done finally. I've only been chair really for 12 months because this last 6 months has been totally zilch, to be quite honest, with the pandemic. But I've only been the chair of environment for 12 months, but I will promise you, and I firmly believe all children should have a play area, we will get something done within the next 6 months. And that's a promise. Thank you.
Okay. Sorry, did Councillor Heaslip, have you still got your hand up or did you want to say something else?
My apologies, Madam Mayor, I've likely left it up. Sorry.
Right, thank you.
Beth, are you applauding or have you got your hand up?
Sorry?
Did you have your hand up?
Yeah, I just think it's quite a thing to promise that something's going to happen in 6 months to make a brand new park when we've got a park here and we haven't had anything move forward for 18 months.
I agree with you, Beth, but as I say, Castle and Court are different things. The Workington Town Council providing play area equipment. It's a slightly different thing, but we are trying so much to help you. But if the IRE won't answer the emails, there's nothing we can do about it, really. I wish we could. I'm sorry about that, but I do genuinely wish we could help you a little bit more than we can.
Chair, we've got Billy and then Denise.
Who was first? Billy?
Billy.
Okay, Billy.
Sorry, Chair, it was to ask if I could speak when you were finished on a different item. I do apologise.
No problem, no problem.
Denise?
Denise. Councillor Rollo.
Hi, you're all right. Just on the Westfield play areas, obviously I was chair of environment for a few years. We did look at Westfield sites, and there was Westfield welfare site, which I know is probably, I think we looked at it in depth and it was never a good location. There was a lot of public concern over that. Now the Windsor Road site, it was always down to the residents, I think, if they wanted it. So obviously with Sean Melton living in the area, and if he can get the residents to rally round, that would be absolutely great. You know, it'd be further than we got in the past. But then it was always a priority, but it was just we never found the right location. And then obviously, you know, it was more close became priority, but I still think that North Side needs to be up there on the list, and we need to be knocking on Castles and Co's door and possibly taking that play area off them, to be honest, to you know, just to help the residents.
Councillor Roller, I have been trying since 2019, if I remember, it was in September 2019, we did get involved by Councillor Dixon, and that they've taken one slight bit of notice of what we've asked them to do. Better than that, we'll leave that one, but I definitely try and help Beth to get because I've been there and I've seen it's starting to deteriorate quite seriously, actually, up there on that one. So basically to do with Westfield, I've looked at Westfield myself. It's ideal, but I think it's down for planning. I think it's down for some housing on where I would like one to go on Westfield area, just before where the old community centre used to be. But anyhow, we'll have a look with Councillor Melton when we get organised. And
yeah, but we have to be mindful that obviously if there's an elderly complex going there, obviously you don't want it right next to that. So
it's down for Councillor Rollo. It's down for they're looking at developing bungalows for elderly and disabled. The park I'm proposing is a smaller one in the area that's already fenced off round there, just a little park, so there's something there, which still leaves, as you know yourself, you've been there, it's a massive area.
Is that the top where Road Terrace is?
No, on the park behind Windsor Road.
Yeah. All right. Yeah. Yeah.
There's a little bit sectioned off, which has been fenced, which is all I'm looking for is for infants, really. As I say, from 1 to 5 year old, maybe 6 year old, no more, no, you know. And then there's a massive development. That site's huge. It could put maybe 10 bungalows on there. But the problem that Westfield have then is access into that area. So there's a good proposal that it won't be. But the other thing is vandalism, which I'm currently also in contact with Westfield regarding cameras, which we're trying to do. It's a long process. I've been down it for the last 8 months. But there is other sites. Hopefully we can walk around and have a speak within ourselves all together and see what we
It's
can
moving
come up
forward,
with.
Councillor Melton. As I say, within the next 3 weeks, we'll try and get something definite done to meet up together and discuss this problem and let it get solved once and for all.
Thank you, Chair.
Thank you.
I think we have Councillor Miskelly and Councillor Heaslip.
Who was first? Councillor Miskelly?
It was, it's not for you, like I said, to speak after Chair, sorry.
Is this on the Culture Committee, Billy?
No, this is when all the
Councillor Heaslip?
meeting is finished, before you wind up, finish, I'd like to speak about something concerning the council, particularly St Michael's Ward. There wasn't any other appropriate place to bring it up. And it'll only be very brief. Sorry.
Okay. Okay, Councillor Heaslip, will you want to speak?
Very, very briefly. In spite of the fact that I've been in training for some years now for being a grumpy old curmudgeon, I don't think we should assume that having kids around the place is something that old people necessarily object to. If I were ever in a position of being in an old folk bungalow, one of the things I'd love to be able to hear is the sound of children playing. Keeps you young, keeps you alive. I don't think we should assume that young people and old people can't get along together. In fact, it'd be great for social cohesion if we could have more of it. Thank you.
Totally agree with you, sir.
For once in a while, Michael, I do agree with you as well. I love to watch children. Children and animals, children and dogs. That's what old people like. Take my word for it. Thank you. Is that all tonight? Questions?
Thank you, Chair.
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay. Have we approved the minutes?
I've got them proposed. Does somebody second them?
Second them.
Thank you.
Then that takes us on to the Culture Committee. Councillor Armstrong's not here to answer questions, so has anyone any questions on that? Can we accept the minutes? Do we have a proposed? Oh, sorry. Does Councillor Heaslip got his hand up, or is that from before?
Sorry, Madam Mayor, I'm getting old. I forgot to take it down.
I'm getting more observant. That's good. Thank you.
Function of age, clearly. Blaine is waving, but I don't know if he's
sorry.
waving.
Sorry.
Are you proposing, Blaine? Yeah.
Yes. Yeah. Do we have a seconder?
Seconded.
Thank you.
Well, and that's accepted. Should we listen to what Billy has to say?
Yes.
Right, what it is, it really just concerns the St Michael's Ward councillor. I'm speaking to the police tonight. It's obvious we've got a big problem on St Michael's. I've been writing to the 101, the police, Castles and Coasts, and various officers of the council from June onwards. There's 5 councillors on all 3 councils that represent St Michael's. That's myself, Alan Barry, David, Will and Mary. What I would suggest is, would they all be willing to have a meeting? I would suggest the trades all, because we've a room big enough to do it, and we're within the rule of 6. To discuss, put what we know together, and then possibly have a walk around. It would be very, very helpful, I think. You know, no pressure, it's just an idea, and I just wondered if that would be feasible.
I'm sure it will, Billy.
Can I respond to that? Could I respond to that, please?
Yes, please do.
Billy, as you quite well know, I don't do politics. There is no room in parish councils for party politics. I've worked with you. I've worked with Mary.
Yeah.
I'm quite happy to work with anyone. I'll have meetings. If we can improve the lives of people in St Michael's Ward, I will meet with the Pope, if that helps.
Will,
you would.
Will, I'm a good Catholic, but I'm not the Pope, but I'm pleased you'll meet with us. So is that a yes?
As I have done, Billy, I've met with you as in your role as secretary of the housing group.
Yeah.
COVID has stopped that. I've received no more invitations because I only ever was an invitee. I will work with anyone.
We haven't had a meeting.
I will work with anyone. I'm quite open. Put the politics to one side. Let's put the residents first and foremost.
No, well, what it is, Will, you're one end, I'm the other, Mary's in the middle, and Dave's sort of in the middle as well. Alan Barry's close. But I think if we come, so we all know what's going on in our areas. So I'll even make a cup of tea. And if you're buying a pint, we can go next to it social club, okay?
Right, yeah, we'll sort that out, Billy.
All right then. Cheers, Will.
Madam Mayor, I think that's the end of the meeting.
Right, well, thank you very much, everyone. Sorry, Councillor Briggs.
Can I just, before you end the meeting, I'm sure with what Will was saying, there's no room for politics in parish. I'm sure everyone will agree with me when I say to Chris Bagshaw, all the very best in your new job. I wish you well. I've only known you a short time, but you've been here a lot longer than what I have. You've done a cracking job, and I wish you all the best down in Kendal, and Kendal are getting a good officer.
Hear, hear.
Thank you.
Yeah, thanks for the work you've done, Chris.
Yeah, thanks, Chris.
Fully supportive, and I hope, Chris, you do not turn into a stranger, and you do actually, I think the interest you have for Workington, you'll still keep coming back, if not only just look in the local papers to see what's happening. Your heart, as you're leaving a piece of your heart in Workington.
I'm coming back in 6 months to find Hillary's play area in Westfield.
Touche, touche.
Seriously, thank you, councillors. It's had its moments, but I have appreciated your support, and it's been a privilege to serve in Workington, and it's not one I will forget lightly. So I have appreciated it. Thank you.
Thank you.
Good night, everybody.
Good night. Thank you very much.
Night.
Thanks. Take care. Bye.
Night.
Night.
How do we knock this off?